Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ground and Pound podcast, the show where, as always, we're hitting you with them elbows of knowledge. And UFC Abu Dhabi is done and dusted. Whittaker getting soiled in the main event by Renia Derrida, split decision. And as always, Petr Yan showing that he's a step above. And if you guys are enjoying the content here on the Ground and Pound podcast, hit that like and subscribe button as we recap the entire event for UFC Abu Dhabi, kicking things off in the early prelim opener of Martin Buday taking on Marcus Buchecha. And Marcus, the jiu-jitsu is what you got to stick to, my friend, because MMA just clearly isn't for you. And I got to say that this one was a little bit puzzling to me. When you watch tape on Marcus Buchecha, it's very evident that he has a nice double leg. He has nice takedowns. He's very explosive, especially early in fights. But I think this one really just came down to not believing in his striking. I think he knew that he obviously wanted to get the fight to the ground, and so did Martin Buday. And not to take anything away from Martin Buday, but he obviously knew that that was exactly what Buchecha wanted to do, and he did everything he could to keep the fight standing, especially early, and he did a good job of that. Martin Buday stuffed the takedowns. He did a good job of pushing the head down when Marcus would come in for some sloppy takedowns. And ultimately, once Marcus Buchecha got a little bit tired, that was all she wrote. The technical striking here of Buday, just touching with the jab, just putting the combinations together, was enough for him to win a unanimous decision victory here. I didn't disagree with the decision at all. I think Martin Buday definitely deserved to win this one. And it just goes to show, man, that high-level jiu-jitsu guys do tend to struggle when they come into the world of mixed martial arts. We've seen it time and time again. And I was kind of surprised here that Martin Buday was able to survive on the ground against Buchecha here. I thought Buchecha would have been able to get the takedowns, would have been able to take the back and, find the rear naked choke. You see on a lot of his highlight reel tapes that he's good at getting that body triangle and the rear naked choke. He had Buday in many opportunities to be able to implement his jiu-jitsu, but couldn't capitalize. And I even said on the breakdown that we did this week with Carlos that Martin Buday is a very big heavyweight. He definitely cuts weight to get to 265, probably walks around in the 280 mark, 290 mark. He cuts a lot of weight probably to get to 265, and it showed in there. I think the physical strength of Martin Buday here, that the size was enough here for him to just be able to kind of shuck off some of the positions here of Buchecha. And a little bit unfortunate, obviously, Carlos and I both did think that Buchecha was going to be able to get the sub here. Not taking anything away from Martin Buday, cashing here as an underdog for those of you that took him, but sloppy heavyweight fight. I was never going to bet on this one anyway, but hats off to Martin Buday for getting it done here and showing that jiu-jitsu isn't only the skill set that you need in a mixed martial arts fight. And next up, we had a performance of the night bonus here for Stephen Nguyen getting the win. Honestly, if you guys didn't see this one broke the record for the most knockdowns in UFC history. Steve Nguyen breaking that record. I believe it was 7 or 8. They didn't count one of them, which was kind of crazy. It didn't look like a stumble or a trip, or it looked like he just knocked him on his ass. Stephen Nguyen, like I said, performance of the night bonus, getting that 50K, definitely deserved. And after the second round, the doctor had to stop the fight for a very nasty eye swollen shut there for Muhammad Yahya. You could see it. A lot of toughness. I got to say one thing about Muhammad Yahya is, he really, I call him the poster boy of UAE. He's definitely somebody who the UAE and that part of the world is really behind. I know that the PI has gone over to that part of the world in Saudi Arabia or Abu Dhabi. I'm not sure where they have that located, but he's a big part of that over there. And one thing you will say, he's definitely making a conscious effort to fight for his fans, to fight for that part of the world and really represent, because he showed a lot of toughness in this fight, getting dropped so many times. At no point did he think about quitting. I believe it was the second round as well that he had been dropped maybe 5 or 6 times up until this point. He was able to rock Stephen Nguyen, and it looked like he was going to make a comeback. And that's why we love this sport. That's why this sport can be so crazy. One punch can change a whole fight. But ultimately, I think the hand speed here of Stephen Nguyen was what got him the job done. In moments here, it looked like the doctor or even the referee could have come in and stopped the fight with the amount of times that Muhammad Yahya had been dropped in this fight. I thought Stephen Nguyen did a fantastic job here of getting back in the win column, or getting the win here inside the UFC. And I think 50K well deserved, man. This was a great fight. Obviously, not necessarily the fight that the UAE fans obviously wanted to see, with their boy getting mopped and dropped multiple times. And you never want to be on the bad end of a UFC record of being dropped 7 or 8 times. But Stephen Nguyen, man, getting it done, looked impressive. Obviously, not necessarily a high-level fight, not necessarily a UFC contender by any means, but entertaining fight. That eye was nasty as well. I remember them saying later on in the broadcast as well, there was no sort of orbital fracture, so good news for Muhammad Yahya there. But he definitely couldn't see out of that eye, as you can see from that image on your screen. Performance of the night bonus, well earned. Stephen Nguyen getting the win. And next up, we had, we go from performance of the night to just, what was this? Like, honestly, this is, incoming rant, if you guys didn't know. I'm not taking anything away from Billy, Elekana, whatever the hell this guy's name is. Who cares? Both guys are fucking irrelevant. This was a terrible fight. If you thought about going back and watch this one, I think a lot of people expected Abu Aslan here to be able to get the knockout using his power. 14 of his wins, all coming via knockout, all coming via finish, I should say. I think one's by submission, actually. And Billy getting the decision here, but the thing that really bugs me about this fight is Abu Aslan at the end. They raised raised Billy's hand at the end of the fight to say that he won, and you see Abu Aslan like shrug his shoulders and kind of question the decision, like he did enough. Like, both guys fought a terrible fight. Both guys stood there and looked at each other for 3 straight rounds. Billy threw a little bit more volume, which is why he won the fight overall. I don't have any discrepancy here that Billy should have won this fight, because he did have a little bit more output. He did have a couple of the bigger moments, and Abu Aslan just didn't throw. So how can you be disappointed with your performance? It's a joke. It makes no sense. You go through the weight cut, you go through all of the hard work, you go through all of the training, you fly all the way over to the UAE just to do what? To stand and look at the guy for 3 straight rounds. It makes no sense. The only thing I can think of, and the commentary team brought this up as well, and I was thinking the same thing, is after Abu Aslan being taken down so easily in his previous fight and submitted and being finished, maybe he's a little bit more cautious, but Billy's not necessarily known for his power either. Out of the two, Abu Aslan's got more power. I think maybe Abu was struggling a little bit with the speed of Billy in this fight, especially with the sparring on the feet, the sparring style fight that we saw here. This one was an absolute dog shit performance. Cut both guys, throw them to the wolves. It's terrible. Don't even bother wasting your time. And next up, we had Tabatha Ricci getting the second round TKO victory here over Amanda Ribas, and I'm calling this one the pump fake dog of the week. For those of you that missed it, the dog of the week was not Tabatha Ricci. It was Renia Dorita in the main event, so both of them cashing here. If you ended up putting money on both, she was in part of our best bets, so you would have cashed there. Our best bets absolutely crushed this week, which was fantastic to see, apart from our slam of the week, which was unfortunate. But Tabatha Ricci here getting it done. And I have to say, Amanda Ribas got off to a great start. This didn't look like it was going to be Tabatha Baby Shark Ricci getting her hand raised. Ribas was able to get a nice judo foot sweep in the first round when both ladies were in the clinch. Ricci was able to get back to her feet. I think Ribas was pretty much winning the striking exchanges in the first round. Looked like a fairly, very, very simple first round, 10-9 to Amanda Ribas. After the second round starts, we're going out here, and both women are kind of exchanging, and all of a sudden they get into the clinch up against the fence. Tabatha Ricci's corner told her, throw an elbow in the clinch, throw that little up elbow when you get her in the clinch. When you've got one underhook on the right-hand side, throw that little left elbow. She listened to her corner. I'm happy that she didn't have Roman Kopolov's corner, because they probably would have told her that she won the first round. But instead, they gave her some great advice, and it just shows the fighter listened. She listened. She threw that left elbow right up into the eye of Amanda Ribas. Amanda Ribas, you could tell she was hurt. When you see the replay, she folded. Ribas, took advantage of that, was able to get the finish here, just wailing on her with ground and pound here. The referee did a good job of stopping this fight. I was expecting this one to go to distance. Obviously, we see a lot of the women's fights do that, but that up elbow was nasty. The point of the elbow really caught her right in the eye. And as we said, we don't care. Cashing here for an underdog. Our pump fake dog of the week was able to cash, so it didn't matter who it was, Renia Dorita or Tabatha Ricci. Both of them cashed this week. She was one of our plays for our best bets. I didn't expect her to get the finish, though, but that was a nasty elbow, and it just goes to show sometimes you got a good corner. Sometimes they give you solid advice. They see things you don't. She listened, she capitalized, and therefore she got the win. Hats off to Tabatha Baby Shark Ricci. And next up, we had Davey Grant here being able to get the decision victory. And Carlos and I were saying on our full card breakdown, I mean, hats off to this guy. Obviously, danger is his name for a reason. This guy is very dangerous on the feet with his kickboxing. And we thought that Blackshear was going to be able to mix in the takedowns. And he did in the first round. He was able to get the takedown. And Davey Grant doing a good job fighting back to his feet. And ultimately, it proved that, there's still life left in the old guy. I hate to say it, but, a smaller weight classes, you don't tend to see older guys doing that well. Davey Grant proving that Father Time is still yet to defeat him. 39 years old, getting a win on an up-and-comer. And the striking just proved to be the difference maker here, getting the decision victory. Hats off to him. Was very impressive. And I think with Blackshear, the problem with him is that on the feet, after he wrestles a little bit, he does tend to slow down a little bit in fights if he mixes in the grappling. If it's a back-and-forth striking affair, he can hang. But because he wrestled early in that first round, I think that Grant was able to capitalize here as the more slicker, dynamic striker, using his kicks and ultimately getting the decision victory. So hats off to him. I think that's an impressive win for Davey Grant. And Carlos and I both said, which was what I was going to get to, was on the full card breakdown, Davey Grant is always live for an upset. He's not shown any signs of slowing down. His takedown defense has always been something that's been questionable, but he's worked on it and worked on it. It showed in this fight. And ultimately, was able to get a win against an up-and-comer that I think a lot of people were fairly high on in Damon Blackshear. So hats off to Davey Grant, man, the Englishman. Never hating on an Englishman doing well in the UFC. Hats off to him for getting it done and showing that Father Time still hasn't got to him yet. I'm happy with it. And next up, we had the performance of the night bonus for Muslim Salikhov here, and I gotta say, man, this one caught me off guard. To be perfectly honest, I think that Carlos Leal was definitely caught off guard by this one. He did not see this one coming. Early in the first, I think 30 seconds of the first round, Muslim Salikhov throws a big overhand right, catches Leal perfectly on the temple and drops him. And it was one of those overhand rights. If you've ever played UFC, video games or whatever, it's the spam overhand right that everybody loves to throw. It was that exact shot. He landed that big overhand. And Muslim Salikhov is known for his kicks. He's not necessarily known for the power in the hands or the boxing, but it showed that, if you underestimate, Salikhov's striking ability, he can make you pay. And I think the thing with Leal is we've seen, and we even said this on our full card breakdown, Leal likes to pressure on the feet. He likes to really back people up. He walks you down with disdain. We saw that in the last fight against Alex Morono. He really will walk down his opponents and kind of, throw a little bit of caution to the wind, which we like to see as fans, but it showed in this fight that it got him caught in a big way. Muslim Salikhov capitalized. Hats off to him for the 50K bonus. Well deserved. And honestly, probably the best knockout on this whole entire card. So hats off to Muslim Salikhov for getting that knockout victory here. And I think Carlos Leal, it just goes to show, man, that sometimes you can't just walk guys down and you can't just treat everybody like, they're going to fold and break to your will. Sometimes you have to be a little bit more defensively sound. And he ended up getting, roasted, mopped, dropped, whatever you want to call it here. And there was no doubt about this one, no doubt about the stoppage. He was out for a little bit. He had to get help back to his feet at the end of this fight. Muslim Salikhov, 50K bonus, the king of Kung Fu, getting it done. Happy with the performance, even though it did make one of our bets lose this week with the slam of the week. But Muslim Salikhov, man, 3 knockouts in a row, and he's still 41 years old. Didn't see that one coming. And next up, we have Bryce Mitchell getting the decision victory here against Nurmagomedov. And I got to say, man, that this one with Bryce Mitchell, it's good to get Bryce Mitchell back in the win column. Whether you love him or hate him, he is entertaining. And how about that verse at the end, on the post-fight interview that he had? That was pretty impressive, whether you're a religious believer or not. Pretty impressive bars at the end there from Bryce Mitchell. I thought a rap album might come out soon. But honestly, this fight went exactly how I said. This is exactly how Carlos said for the full card breakdown. I felt like Saeed was going to have success, especially early in the first round. He was going to be able to implement his kicks. He was going to be able to have success in the scrambles, in the wrestling. And ultimately, it showed in the third round. I don't know if you guys watched the video, but I said on the full card breakdown that Saeed is going to spin at some point. It's going to get him taken down. He's going to duck under that. Bryce Mitchell's going to duck under that. He's going to be able to get that takedown. And ultimately, he's going to win rounds based on the fact that Saeed is going to spin and it's going to get him caught in the takedown. And that's exactly what Bryce Mitchell was able to do. Time those takedowns with the spins of Saeed Nurmagomedov. And also Saeed as well. He gets tired later on in fights from those big movements. And you could see that, especially with his ability to kind of accept bottom position when Bryce did get the takedowns late in this fight. It's good to have Thug Nasty back in the win column here at 135, coming down from 145. And, he was saying that he wants to spice up this division. And, I think bantamweight's a great division, but having a new name, having a big name like Bryce Mitchell in there is going to be entertaining for anybody. The guy can wrestle. The guy's tough. And ultimately, he's a fan favorite, whether you like him or hate him. People tune in to watch this guy fight. You either want him to get knocked out because you find him annoying or because he's entertaining and you like the guy. And I thought it was pretty funny that the whole corner was talking about in the third round to inspire him. Come on, farm boy. Come on, farm boy. I thought that was pretty good. And ultimately, Bryce Bryce Mitchell getting the victory here. Was pretty impressed here. And that kicked off what was going to be a main card opener here for Guskov, man, getting that right hand piston going, knockout here, getting the victory here over Nikita Krylov. Kicking off the main card, you always want to get a nice knockout, and I think that the UFC did a good job of putting these two together. Krylov, obviously, he's very, very aggressive. You know that Guskov is very, very aggressive and has a piston right hand. Ultimately, it was the right hand of Guskov that landed. And I think the thing with Nikita Krylov is that he's far too exposed when he comes into the pocket. If you look at that fight previously against Dominic Reyes, he shoots and darts in far too far out of range. In this fight, it was pretty much just a well-timed right hand, but he does tend to leave his chin a little bit exposed up in the air, and that's one guy I will say that Guskov, he's building some momentum. He does have a powerful right hand. He is not the guy that you can leave your chin up in the air for. And ultimately, I mean, I did pick him. He cashed as an underdog if you did bet him. I felt like this fight was really just going to come down to who landed first. Ultimately, it was the underdog here on Guskov that was able to get it done, getting his hand raised here with his teammate, Walter Walker as well. I think that he's looked impressive. He's definitely somebody who I think that we need to keep an eye on. I do think that he carries a lot of power. He's on a multiple fight win streak now. Be interesting to see who the UFC gives him. I think he's now in the top 10, I want to say, because I think Krylov was ranked 10. He was ranked 13th. And ultimately, his right hand is a weapon that everybody needs to be mindful of. And Krylov, man, I think that he needs to go back to the drawing board. He needs to. He does have 40 fights. He's an experienced veteran inside of MMA. He needs to kind of go back a little bit and just, kind of reel it in. He's obviously too aggressive at times and getting caught. I wonder what that's going to be like for his chin after back-to-back first-round knockouts. But ultimately, Guskov getting the knockout victory here, like we said. And if you took that play as a bet, I don't blame you. It's a pretty nice play for the knockout here, especially after Krylov's last performance against Dominic Reyes. And next up, we have Almabayev getting the unanimous decision victory here. Ochoa came in, man, and I like this kid, Ochoa. Before we talk about Asu and the hat, the wrestling, the skill set, getting back in the win column, I quite like this guy, Ochoa, man. He's pretty good. He's tough. He can do it all. If you even saw in that first round when you watch this one back, he was able to get the body lock, take the back here of Asu, who's known as a great wrestler, and he rode out the back here at the end of the first round. I was fairly impressed with him, especially on short notice. He defended a lot of the early takedowns in the first round, and I think really this one just came down to not being on a full camp. I think if he had a full camp, I think this fight would have been much closer. I do think that Asu definitely won the fight. There's no doubt about that. But I like that Ochoa, he can hurt people with the hands. He's big for the division. He has good takedowns. He has good grappling. He has good submissions. He's young still, only 24 years of age. To have a competitive fight here against a guy like Asu Almabayev, who's I think he's at least top 10 in the division. I can't remember if he's top 5, but to have that kind of competitive performance on short notice doesn't hurt his stock at all. But when we talk about Asu, the guy, obviously fantastic wrestler, was able to implement his wrestling-heavy game plan here, and he really just wore down Ochoa, and that was exactly what we said. He cashed for us in our best bets. We took him money line at about even money here to get this one done. I thought the full camp in the wrestling was going to be enough. That's exactly what he used. That's exactly what he did. He was able to take the back in moments and ride out a lot of top back control here, looking for the choke, and he did exactly what he does in most of his fights when he gets the victory. He wasn't able to get the submission, which he's done in the past, but I think that it just goes to show, man, that how good Ochoa is, especially with his submission defense. And also as well, one thing I will say, there's a big size discrepancy here between these two. Asu isn't necessarily the biggest guy, so to be able to time his takedowns, have the good cardio, and actually implement a wrestle-heavy game plan over the course of 3 rounds is definitely tough to handle, especially on short notice. So hats off to Asu for getting the unanimous decision victory here. Fight well earned, and thank you for cashing for us in our best bets. And next up, we had the fight of the night. We had Shara Bullet getting the unanimous decision victory here over the power bar Marc-Andre Barriault. And this one looked like it was going to be one-way traffic until the right hand of the power bar landed, which really changed the complexion of the fight. We saw with Shara, he was having his way on the feet. He was, kind of doing what he does, dancing around on the outside. Barriault was looking to really pressure, looking to get the takedowns, force Magomedov to fight on the outside. He did a good job of that, and he was getting picked apart for that. The inside leg kick was snapping. I thought we might even get like a TK TKO stoppage here at some point with the amount of leg kicks that Barriault was taking here from Nurmagomedov. They were very nice leg kicks, really snappy. You could really hear the impact of those shots. And he does a good job of really mixing in everything, Nurmagomedov. One thing you will say is, his takedown defense looks like it's improved a little bit. He did a good job of stuffing most of Marc-Andre Barriault's takedowns. But in that second round, Barriault was getting hurt. He looked like he was on his way out. He looked like he was about to get finished. He throws a big overhand right that lands. Shara eats that thing on the right, on the beard, and it wobbles him. It stuns him back to the fence. Marc-Andre Barriault smells blood. It looks like he's going to go in for the finish. A very back and forth fight, especially in the second round. Ultimately, Shara at the end of the second round was able to kind of weather that storm and come back and ultimately kind of bully Marc-Andre Barriault in the second, towards the end of the second round there. And in the third, it was all Nurmagomedov. He was able to take the fight into deeper waters, land the elbows in the clinch. He loved the jumping knee. He kept throwing that one, trying to time that knee when Marc-Andre Barriault would shoot in for takedowns. But ultimately, 50 Gs well earned from both guys. A bloody war back and forth. Marc-Andre Barriault's chin held up very well against an impressive striker, which is something that Carlos and I have talked about previously, that we thought his chin might have disappeared. Obviously, it hasn't. He was able to take Shara's best shots. The knees, the elbows, all landed fairly clean, and he was able to take them. So hats off to both guys for giving the fans what they wanted to see. But I think you can take something from both guys in this fight. One guy whose chin we thought, an older guy whose chin may have been gone, he's shown that his chin, is still durable, still good enough. He can still be competitive in fights against big names. And also Shara's takedown defense looked a little bit more impressive in this fight. He looks like he's definitely been working on that. But 50K for both guys. I'm sure they'll be sore tomorrow, but at least they'll be 50K richer. And next up, we had the co-main event. And this one, again, cash for our best bets. We had the plus 3.5 here. And I got to say, man, Petr Yan is just a very predictable fighter at this point. We know exactly what we're going to get here. And Marcus McGhee, man, plus 3.5. That's what we had here at plus 100. We always know with Petr Yan that he is going to take that first round off to get his reads. He's not going to come out overly aggressive. He's going to look for his openings. He's going to look for his reads, and he's going to build. He always builds in fights. He takes the first round off. Sometimes it can be a little bit worrying, especially in 3-round fights, that he gets off to a slow start. But ultimately here, getting the 29-28 decision. I called that one perfectly. I said that it's going to be 29-28 Petr Yan. Second round and third round was definitely his. He put up way more volume. He rips to the body, great foot sweeps in this fight. And he really just kind of mixed things in beautifully after the first round. And McGhee, I think even he would have to admit here that this is a step up in competition for him. I don't necessarily think that he even thought that he was going to beat Petr Yan, if you want me to be honest. He started off early in the first round, just throwing a little bit more volume out there. He blitzed late into the first, which is what I think really sort of sealed the first round for him. And ultimately, it sealed off the plus 3.5 bet here at plus 100 for us in our best bets. Another bet that cashed for us this week. So happy about that for the bettors. But ultimately, it's good to see Petr Yan still getting it done. And his boxing looked crisp. When you see him late into fights, he will look to mix in takedowns like he did in this fight with back control. And kind of, he went for a moment in the third round where it looked like, the referee was going to split them up when they were clinching against the fence, Yan looking for a takedown. And he just, kind of stuck his back foot out there and tried to sweep him over the leg and get a takedown just to kind of mix things up, keep McGhee guessing. And ultimately, the boxing of Petr Yan and the volume is all she wrote. With him that's exactly what you're going to get. That with Marcus McGhee that he is an absolute physical specimen, but tends to slow down a little bit due to his build. The explosivity isn't there, especially late into fights, and Petr Yan was able to take over. Cash for us in our best bets. If you took Petr Yan money line, I don't blame you either. He was definitely a big favorite for a reason, but ultimately cashing here in the co-main event. Good fight overall. And if you're enjoying the content, hit that like and subscribe button as we talk about the main event. Renia Dorita getting it done here. Split decision over Robert the Reaper Whittaker for our dog of the week. Back in the win column for our dog of the week, happy to say. And Renia Dorita getting it done, man. I think that this fight, I know some people are probably going to argue and say that they didn't agree with the decision. Some people thought Robert Whittaker did enough. I felt like Renia Dorita did enough just purely because in a lot of the clinching exchanges, he was constantly working in little short uppercuts, which we've seen him do. He's throwing knees to the body. Whittaker was kind of accepting some of these positions. He was obviously very fatigued. I think he maybe, kind of fatigued himself after the second round. The first round was all Robert Whittaker. I kind of felt like maybe our dog of the week might end up losing here when you watch the first round back. Bobby Knuckles was, exploding in and out of the pocket, very bouncy, light on his feet, getting the hands going. Renia de Ridder in the second round came out. He was able to hurt Robert Whittaker a little bit. He was able to find the body shots. Those step-in knees were there throughout the whole fight. He was constantly spamming those knees. And I think really he just wore down Robert Whittaker here. And ultimately it proved to be a very back-and-forth fight. At one moment as well, I believe it was in the third, Renia de Ridder had Robert Whittaker hurt. He looked like he was about to get him out of there, and Bobby Knuckles threw a big overhand right that landed flush on the chin, dropped Renia de Ridder. I thought that was going to be the moment there where Robert Whittaker, basically came around and turned this fight all around. It looked like at one moment it was going to be de Ridder, one moment it was going to be Whittaker, very back and forth, and it all came down to the fifth round. I think that the judges really just sided with de Ridder really because of the amount of volume he was able to put up with the ground strikes and against the fence with the clinch. Not necessarily that the best performance. I think that he thought he was going to get Robert Whittaker out of there, and I do think that Whittaker might be slowing down a little bit, especially late into fights. He looked like after the third, he didn't have anything left in those championship rounds, but ultimately Renia de Ridder shows that, he's climbing the division. He might be the next up for the title. If Hamza or DDP, depending on who wins that fight, be interesting to see what they do with Renia de Ridder here. But the guy's got ground game. The guy is very unorthodox. He's tough to deal with, big for the division, and he just showed, again, that for the dog of the week, he was able to cash for us as a plus money underdog. And as always, I have to let you know what's coming on the channel. We have Tyra taking on Albazi at the UFC Apex Fight Night card next week. Full card breakdown for you guys, as always, on the channel. Carlos and I will be releasing that early this week. We have the full card breakdown for the PFL World Tournament Series 8. Looking forward to that card. A couple of nice names on that card. And also, full card breakdown, man. That's what it's going to be. The detailed breakdown of the entire card for both events. I'm going to do a best bets video for both events. And we can't talk bets without talking about the dog of the week. My favorite betting underdog video, full highlight reel tape for UFC Fight Night Tyra taking on Albazi. Check that video out. Hopefully we can make it now 2 in a row after the Renia de Ridder victory. And as always, if you're enjoying the content here on the Ground and Pound podcast, hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.